Here we are again. Got the Tundra rear end pretty much finished up. Just need to finish bleeding the brakes. Since last time, everything's been welded, painted, assembled. I added the Caltrack bars. Hopefully that'll allow me to run a little bit faster, a little bit less pressure in the tires, keep the axle from wrapping. Basically, when the axle wraps, it puts that force into the bar up here, which goes onto this and pushes down on the leaf spring, and then it pushes that weight forward into the front shackle. So it gives you more forward momentum and keeps the axle a little more planted so you don't get that wheel hop. So I'll be running these 295, 65, 15 Mickey Thompson ET Streets, and they're just on steel wheels. They're 15 by 10s and they're 3.75 back spacing. So I had to run a pretty aggressive offset just because of the leaf springs. You know, if it didn't have the leaf springs, I could probably get away with running a more standard sized wheel. So it takes a long time to get aluminum wheels custom made. So I've been waiting until they're not on back order, basically. So last time the drive shaft was just kind of mocked up, and what I ended up having to do is cut out this whole area and put in a piece of square tubing that I cut in half and shaped because it wasn't flat enough, basically. So I had to extend this flat section, so I had a place to bolt that up to where it was flat. And I used the angle finder and everything to set the drive shaft. So hopefully my drive shaft angles are spot on, but the only way to really know is to try to test drive it. So I'll know sooner than later. All these hoses from Turbo Time worked out really well. I run these same hoses on my turbo and my pressure sensors and now my brake hoses. So they're pretty good. You just call them and tell them how long you want them and what ends you want on there, and they'll put them on there. So before I started bleeding the brakes, I actually went ahead and redid the fronts too. These are just stock Tundra 2004 for a base model. They're giant though, 13 WL. I went with these stainless hoses because before it had a hard line that basically went from the caliper to here. Then it had a rubber hose that went to here and another hard line that went up to here. So it was kind of weird, or maybe it was just a two-piece actually. But anyway, the stainless hoses are nice, and it goes into a banjo bolt instead of into a flare fitting. So I also redid all of the brake lines and deleted the ABS, and now I'm tying my front, just that front wheel speed sensor into the Haltech so I can do gear detection eventually. I tied in the flex fuel sensor into the fuel lines and wired that up, so that should be all good. I just got to calibrate it. We've been working on this 4-inch stainless exhaust. I'm going to put the 3-inch back on just to test drive it and stuff like that. And we'll get the 4-inch finished soon. And it's going to have the dump pipe or the wastegate exit, I guess. It's going to be located down back into the downpipe. And I have a bellows for that, so it shouldn't really crack and it should be easy to get apart. Yeah, so you can see the line locker there that I bought. It's just from Summit Racing. Hopefully that works out. Kind of get mixed reviews on those, but we'll see. Again, there's all new brake lines. My clutch hose here, I just ordered another one from Drift Motion because I got a clutch slipper valve. So I'll be putting that in shortly. Hopefully that'll help the R-Series transmission hold together on those tires. Oh yeah, I guess talk a little bit more about the braking system. So it's just the Toyota set up in the front, and the master cylinder, it's a 13/16 bore, so it's pretty big. We'll see how it feels now that it's got disc brakes in the rear. I got my Wheelwood proportioning valve for the rear brakes in there, and I can adjust that on the fly. I can reach that right from the driver's position, so that's kind of neat. A lot of people mount them back here, but I figured why not have it in the front where I can reach it, where it stays out of the weather. Yeah, so the CalTrack bar install, it wasn't too bad, but it comes with an aluminum bushing for the front leaf spring eyelet, and taking the old bushings out, it's kind of tough, but pressing the new aluminum bushing in there was like crazy hard. As you may or may not be able to tell, I had to cut away at the shackle here, basically just to give this some range of motion so it doesn't bind up. You can kind of see right here where I first bolted it up that it was binding when you put weight on the springs. So yeah, this thing has been, on jack stands on the axle and on the frame, and get the jack up and down, underneath the rear axle, just to basically articulate the whole axle up and down, just to kind of check everything, see how it feels, looks unweighted and weighted, and so on and so forth. So setting up the pinion angles and everything like that was definitely a learning experience, and trying to measure everything out for the axle, make sure all the mounts are in the right spot. So right now the suspension geometry is exactly the same as it was from the factory, minus the CalTrack bars, obviously. And I did remove the overload spring. Those things are really heavy, and I won't really be hauling anything in this anymore, so those were free to go. Well, thanks for watching. See you later.